Winter, spring, summer, fall, seasons change, we still keep it together.
Hey Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code? With your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Mary
All this
Mullen.
heinous thing about the real person, and we going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah. Everybody dance now.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Beverly Hills 90210 show. We are still diving into casting with Dianne Young. This week, we're going to cover season 6. Just a shout out to how amazing that new Taylor Swift record, Midnights, is. Some really great tracks. I don't know if you're all listening. What is this? Look at this. Saw that? Look at a little fuzz. Oh, well. Anyway, I think it's great. The Yankees are out, and so are the Padres. I'm sure Melanie is upset about that, but baseball's super interesting for sure. And I am off to Nova Scotia this week, where I'm screening a film of mine. And Charles and Larry are doing their normal stuff in with politics and all that fun things that are going on. Larry has this awesome book. I want to make sure I shout that out this week. If you head over to larrymullen.com, you can find his books, but he's got this Pool Guys Kid, and it is really great. I've been following along even on Larry's YouTube page now. He's reading chapters of it. So make sure you all head over to larrymullen.com or follow him on Facebook or Instagram. He's Twitter. He's promoting it all over the place. We're going to definitely do something next week, really diving into it. So I'm excited about that. All right, so this is now we're going to dive into season 6. Just going to warn you, this one is pretty exciting, and a lot of new information is going to pop up in this one. And I just cannot wait for you guys to all talk about this, and we need to do some sort of rewind with the group to talk about what we just heard in the last few weeks, and maybe we'll do that coming soon. Anyway, this is of course the Beverly Hills 90210 show. I am now sending you to a chat from a couple of weeks ago about season 6. All right, so continuing on, this is really exciting. Dianne, it's so good to have you shedding some light on some of the casting process of this series. When you look back at 90210, you spent so many years doing that show. I mean, do you have mostly good memories from doing it? I know it's a challenging job.
It was a very challenging job for a lot of different reasons, but overall, I do. There was a time in the last 2 years, there were times when I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And
well, we were doing 32 hours a year.
Yes,
for
the
4
double
straight
up.
years. We did
Yes.
we did 128 episodes in 4 years.
And
That's why what you're feeling is that.
Thank you,
Because that was double casting. You remember how crazy it was.
Oh, it was. And what I remember, I think about it at that time was that I think my department was the only one that didn't bring on extra people.
Exactly.
And Kelly and I were there for like 12 hours a day. And I felt badly for her because she didn't live as close as I did. And she had a baby, a young child, and she had to go and get that child after work. And sometimes she didn't get there in time. And it was just always a saga. It was horrible. But, she's a champ.
Larry, let's talk about season 6. Bring me into season 6 and talk to me about what you're looking for. Chuck's gone. Wait, Dianne, did Chuck leaving, did that change casting for you at all in any way? Or was it just, we have new people in the room that are going to be helping me with making decisions?
Well, Larry was already there and I knew him, which was actually a comfort because when I was looking over, the season 6 questions, I thought, it was really helpful to have Larry there. Um,
Paul was, he was a constant too. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a big part of his job.
oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And, bring up any names you think that I am not bringing up, Larry, because
Well, again, Jessica,
Oh,
was there,
yeah,
especially in the first
Jessica,
part of that season.
absolutely.
She really did a lot of the casting responsibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be there when they would be my show that I had written, which since I did write
Sure.
a lot, I was there a lot. But
Mhm.
yeah, I
I
mean,
talked a lot more to Jessica. I do remember that. Chuck leaving, it was, definitely the loss of a presence. And even though he says that he wasn't good at it or not as interested in it, I never felt like and I'm going to use the word because I can't think of another word. I never felt like he shafted me in any way.
Mhm.
good.
That he would always give me the attention. I could always get him on the phone. I could always ask him questions. He would accept what I would say sometimes. If he didn't, then he would tell me. And it was all acceptable. It was nothing, it was business, and we were working and we were trying to get a show done and get it done well. And I think that that's what we all did.
Season 6, I mean, really the difference was that we had to bring in some new people. We got rid of Jim Eckhouse and Carol Potter. The parents
Yes.
left in that part, and then we filled up the thing. And then the big thing was the casting of the part of Colin Robbins, which was going to be the boyfriend of Kelly Taylor for the whole
Yeah.
season. And I remember Jason Wiles, just standing out and being so happy that we had someone that was so interesting yet kind of also dark, because he could play a little bit of the bad boy we needed. And you should talk about Jason, who hasn't come on our show yet. Says he wants to, but I don't know why he hasn't. Frankly, I don't know.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Jason Wiles.
I met Jason Wiles. He came in for me, and he came in to read for that role. And I thought, oh, he's pretty interesting. And wasn't a name. I also had been given names by other people. And I read a whole lot of actors for that role. And I met Jenny's boyfriend for it, and he was a contender, good actor.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Which do you know what boyfriend that would be?
It must have been Dan. It must have been Dan something at
Mm-mm,
that point.
no.
Right? No. Oh,
Peter?
it was Peter Ciccarelli? Peter
Peter
Ciccarelli.
Facinelli, yeah.
Mhm.
And Peter
Facinelli.
was in the
Facinelli.
finals.
He was in the finals.
Yes, and I remember
Didn't
that.
know that.
Yes. And I wish Jessica were still around that we could talk about that a little bit. But it was it was a difficult situation, but it wasn't, because there was a typical way to go and there was a not typical way to go. And we went the not typical way with Jason Wiles.
I'm glad I think after the experience with casting Tiffany, who was at that point the girlfriend of our friend Brian Austin Green, and having it blow up in our face, if we had known that if the producer had known that Peter Facinelli was Jenny's boyfriend, we definitely wouldn't have cast him. because it's just, you don't know if it's going to break up, and then what happens? Then you got a problem.
Well, so this is awkward sauce for you, because now you've got Jason Wiles, who you guys all probably really love because you did get the part, right? And you can figure out how you want to answer this, but was Jenny or Jenny's camp pushing for Peter?
I didn't get the active pushing, but I definitely felt like that was there, that it would have been maybe at the time a comfort for her. But we sat and we talked a lot about it. And I remember we did talk about it.
Well, in the opening scene with them, they're in the Mile High Club. So right away, they're going to be intimate, like in a tight space together. So yeah, you could see. And again, this was the Wild West, as you know, Diane, like now they have intimacy coordinators and everything is like negotiated. The kiss is going to be to the left, to the right. There's going to be this much tongue, but then it was pretty much open, the actors just kind of went at each other.
Right.
It was scary for the girls.
For you, Diane, though, when you're in a situation like that, that must be very stressful.
It was very, very stressful, because I always wanted to make the series regulars happy.
Right.
I wanted it to be a really good place to go to work, and especially in the 6th season of a show,
Yeah.
because there's so many other dynamics going on at that point. That at that point, you know, everything that pretty much could have happened has already happened, personally, professionally. And I always wanted the series regulars to feel like they could say whatever they wanted to me.
Sure.
And, you know, because I was totally open to that. And some did and some did not, which was fine as well. But also when you have a role like that, it's not just the spelling company. First you get me, but what you also get is, and I think, I can't remember if Toni was still there.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, I don't think he
I
was.
think he was gone by the 6th season.
And then Pam Shea, who had been
Right.
his assistant, was made head of the casting department at Spelling. So she came in and she brought a different dynamic than Toni had and relationship with me. And so we were going through that. And also Bob Harbin, who was Bob Harbin and Wendy Matthews from Fox Television Casting. He was head of Fox Casting and Wendy worked right with him. And I knew them very, very well. And we always had good conversations. And I actually had not looked, I had the yellow tablets. And yesterday I had a stack of papers folded up and I hadn't looked at them. Well, I opened them yesterday and it was all about Colin. And on one of the pieces of paper, it was a conversation I had with Bob Harbin, and Bob and I were very good friends for many, many years. And I was reading it and I thought, this is the testiest conversation I had ever had with him. And because it was network versus production company.
This is over Peter versus Colin? Or just general?
Just casting the role of Colin in general.
Mhm.
And he wanted to know, are you telling me or are you asking me?
Mm.
And I was reading this and thinking, I don't remember this at all. It had totally gone out of my head, which is really glad I had it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things you just, you try to call back in time and think about. But he and I rarely had disagreements. We always chatted really well, but it was pretty testy. I was a casting director for a TV show on Fox, and he was the head of the Fox Television Network casting department. And here I was saying, no, I'm telling you, this is what we want.
Someone that wasn't so hard to cast probably is our friend Elisa Donovan, who will come on and join us here in a second. Yeah. We got to give you some surprises, Dianne.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. But so Larry, and she's gonna definitely tell you her story here. Here she is.
There she is, Elisa.
Hi.
How are you?
First say hi, Dianne.
I was so glad to see your name, and I was like, yay!
I love your backdrop. I support the wine behind you. Love it.
I am doing this in my friend's wine bar.
That's great.
All Washington wines. So
Very cool.
Thank you. I'm glad. I'll tell him.
Elisa, what do you remember about meeting Dianne?
Okay. First of all, I was terrified. Everybody, those situations are just, I've said this before. It's just like the most unnatural thing ever, right? Having to do the audition process anyway. And the casting directors are like, you guys are the gatekeepers to the whole situation. And if you don't like us or don't respond, like it's over. And the show was such a big show already. I just felt so nervous. And I remember that immediately you smiled and you were looking me in the eye and you were warm. And it was like, okay, this person wants me to succeed, and that's kind of more of what you understand as you go along in the business, that really you guys just want us to be right. You want us to do well, but it doesn't always feel that way. But with Dianne, I very much, I felt that way. I felt like I had a supporter who was there for me. So it was great.
This should be fun to unwrap the mystery of the casting of Valerie. We're going to cover that in depth, but Elisa was someone who read for the role of Valerie. Do you remember that, Dianne?
I should, yes.
I
I'm
do.
so sorry. It's been a lot of years. I'm not so young anymore, except by name. I always loved her. I thought she was terrific.
Well, she had done Clueless before this. I mean, we had seen her in
Yes.
Clueless. So as producers, we wanted her, you know,
Yes,
she, you know, when we
absolutely.
called the character Ginger, she was what we had in mind. So the not that the fix was in, because we didn't know if we could get her. So we were happy that that all happened. I just wanted to give that oversight to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But your story, and I interviewed you a couple of times now, your story was that you were in potentially the finals of this for Valerie, right, Elisa?
Yes, this I definitely remember. You know, there are a lot of things that are fuzzy over the years, but definitely that I distinctly remember, because I remember the test in Aaron's office at Fox, and so it was Valerie, Tiffany, myself, and Meredith
Heidi.
Salinger,
Oh,
I think, right?
well, there
Is
was
that
Meredith,
wrong?
but I don't remember. I remember Heidi. She was the daughter of actually Saban. I can't think of her last name. Heidi Botay, or what was her
Okay.
last name? She was in California Dreams, and again,
I
we
know who
always
you're
look-
talking about.
we
She did
always
come
look
on
to
the show
those
later
Saturday
on.
morning shows,
Yeah.
but
I
it was that-
mean,
it
you know,
came
maybe
down to
there
the two
were
of them.
maybe there were other people that were tested, but we felt like it was just the three of us. But
Well, that
for
that
sure,
thing at Fox, it was just the
Yeah.
three of you. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it was more than.
I was so nervous. I remember that just I feel like I was just hallucinating. I don't even remember that. I was
So,
so nervous.
Dianne, we just talked about a thing with Jason Wiles, right, where you guys have this conflict. What is this conflict like with the producers and everybody figuring out? I mean, was it, I mean, and we're going to do a deep dive about the Valerie character with Chuck and all that, but was it a clear choice? Did you guys know that it was going to be Tiffany, or and that everybody else was kind of like, why were they there?
Right.
I don't know.
Like,
You know, did you
just
guys
in
know it
case.
was going to be Tiffany?
No,
not
because
at all.
that. Oh, sorry, Larry.
No, I was gonna say no. I was just answering it too. We didn't know. We were letting it happen. But the fact that Brian and Tiffany, because we were so dumb, were boyfriend and girlfriend, like, oh, isn't this cool? Not thinking that they would break up like 2 months later. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. We just
They
wanted
had
to-
broken up, I think, by the time I was on the show. That's
Exactly. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
for
you
sure.
said it. I wasn't
And-
gonna say it. I feel like you guys asked me that the last time, and I was like, I'm not gonna say who.
Yeah, no, they had no. We
Yeah.
just had totally blew that. I mean, because I'll tell that story later.
Yeah.
In episode season 5 casting story.
But so
No,
Dianne,
we remember Lisa there. We knew her, but she also played a little bit older. Don't forget, she was
Yeah.
a little bit older, so that also worked against her in the Valerie thing. Because Valerie, we were trying to keep kind of fresh face from Buffalo and stuff, but then we could bring her in later, Ginger,
Sure.
because she'd be
Go ahead,
the
Dianne, you were
hardened
gonna say.
Buffalo girl.
Right. It's what I always tried when there was a recurring actor or even series regular, even though it was written a certain way, I never wanted to bring in cookie cutter actors because I that wasn't interesting.
Hmm.
And I thought, I didn't want to bring in 3 Tiffany's, 3 Elisas, 3 Merediths, because, you know, you give people choices because each actor brings something of themselves to the role, and which makes it their own. And that's when people have the choices, it made it, I'm not going to say more, didn't make it more difficult, but it made it more interesting. Oh, well, we could go this way with it. These are stories that we could have with this person, and then with this one and this one. So you sit and you talk about it, and who's going to be the best for it. Fox gives their opinions, Aaron gives his, obviously, and the choice gets made. But it was not, I don't recall it being at Fox, oh yeah, well, you know, you shouldn't have brought these other actors in. It was Tiffany from the beginning, because I don't remember it being Tiffany from the beginning.
Mhm.
She came in, she was an actress, and I knew that she and Brian were dating, and that was something I brought up to her agent and said, well, you know, what are we going to do with this? So that's got to be talked about beforehand.
Oh, let's hold that thought for season 5. That sounds juicy and interesting. But okay, so let's talk about the character of Ginger, and we've talked a little bit about this. Dianne, do you remember seeing her again for that character, for that role?
No.
I was so memorable. that
No. But you know what?
Such an imprint.
But here, this is the thing. When I was looking at the notes that they were sending me, and I had been, when the whole thing just came about 6 weeks ago, I started looking through all of my notes. And here are people that I like and actors I remember. And I remembered you. It's just the specifics.
Right.
Yeah. Well, do you
Honestly
know?
speaking,
And I
I'm
think
not
it's-
sure she auditioned for the role of Ginger. I think your memory is going for the Valerie one, because I think we just
Okay.
gave you the role of Ginger.
Okay.
I do remember it was a different, I did come in, but it was like, I feel like it was on at the stages, maybe. It was a totally different thing with Ginger, and it felt very kind
Well,
of.
yeah, that would have been Diane's office there and Paul's office.
But it wasn't, I remember your I sort of remember your office, but I remember it was sort of like in a, almost
Where?
like a, I don't know, it felt like a
Behind
cafeteria.
Costco in Van
a
Nuys.
warehouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just felt different, and it felt very much like it was that I did have the part, but you were going through the motions of, I don't remember who was in the room. I think Jason was in the room. Would
Okay.
that have made sense?
The
Yes.
first
Yeah, I think so.
maybe. She was in the first episode. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Jessica would have been in the room because her and Steve wrote that first episode. So she would have been the first
Yes.
person casting from the producer.
It did feel like I pretty much had this role unless I really
But
screwed
we had
up.
talked
But
about
then
it. and I
also
said,
you
"Oh,
never
we can get the
know,
girl from
right?
Clueless.
I'm just gonna ask you though, Larry. She said, she thought she had the role, but you really never know. So talk.
Yeah.
You never
Well,
know.
no, well, again, it's like Chuck said, all of a sudden you start talking in the room and people go, "Oh, please don't talk." or I like when they want to change the script. Do you mind if I change a couple of lines?
Right.
Yes.
I made it better. You'll like this better.
Yeah, okay. Well, my memory of it is that we saw Elisa's picture and went, oh yes, well, this is what we want, and whatever, and so we kind of just shortcutted the thing. That's because we're so right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate, Dianne, that you said that you looked for sort of non-cookie cutter people, or tried to get some sort of diversity of spirit in that way, because I feel like those are always the situations where I would benefit, because I am very much who I am, and I don't kind of fit into those typical things. And often I think actors really, when they struggle, they try to just be like another person that gets the job, and it just never works. It doesn't work. And it's really sort of shortchanging who you are as an artist. And that means you're not going to get every role, but you're going to get the ones that are right for you.
It's authenticity. You want to be authentic.
Yes.
And why would you hire someone who's just like someone you already have?
Right.
I could never.
I mean,
figure
it's
that one out.
interesting, Elisa, when you look back on the experience, I'm sure you would have loved to have Valerie, but you're so great as Ginger. Like, she is so.
Yeah. I mean, I did, as I said, when you all they sent me the episodes whenever we did the interview like a year ago or something.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that
Yeah.
I felt like she was so bold. And how did I do that? I
She wakes up like literally in a bed with Brandon right off the
I
bat.
feel like that was the first scene that I shot, or it was definitely the first day. And it was like,
Welcome to 90210.
Get in there. Welcome. Hello.
It's the old trick when you have a bad girl and you want to have some sympathy, you create someone even worse than them.
Right. How much worse?
She was to the right of Valerie.
And we shot at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was just at the Hollywood Bowl a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was a really cool experience to be there in that kind of environment, to be on that. We were shooting in the
Great, yeah.
That's where you got accused of taking all the jewelry and all that stuff.
The
right?
days.
Yes.
Yes, it's a memorable day for you.
Yeah, no, it's just a shit disturber character, just worse than Valerie. That's how we looked at it.
What would Ginger say about that today? about getting caught like that. I'm sure she would have something to
Oh, well, I mean, she would probably say that it was not her fault or that she didn't actually do it, that everyone had it wrong. Or she would just say, I mean, I did what I did. That's what I was sort of struck by. She was so unapologetic about all of it. Like just take up
For a hot
space.
second there, I thought we talked to Ginger. That was very cool. Like for a hot second. All right. Thank you, Elisa, for your time here.
you.
Much appreciated.
Great to see
It's
you,
always
Elisa.
good
Great
to
to
see you.
see
Really
you,
enjoy
Diane.
following you on social media. You're lovely.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my
Bye,
God.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh.
Okay, so we were love
Well, I
her.
was just thinking this is the season. Of course, we know going into the season, and Diane knows that we were going to lose Luke. Luke is
Yes.
going to be leaving us.
So I want to jump into some of that. That's really important.
That's just huge.
There's just so many different things that are happening there, particularly with that storyline. You have Rebecca Gayheart.
Stanley Camel.
Well, let's start talking about Rebecca Gayheart specifically, because I believe I had read a note, and I don't know if this is true, that Carrie Russell was potentially up for that part as well. Larry, is that?
Well, no, the story was, I think Diane must have sent us people who were available, and Carrie Russell was our choice. And of course, Mr. Spelling, Jessica tells the story where he says, nah, no daughter of a rich man would ever have hair like that. And the truth was, he was saving her for another series he had called Malibu Shores. So we got the second, our second choice, who was great, and we love her, but was Rebecca Gayheart. And she did not read for the part. We saw her, we knew her from the Noxema thing. We knew she was gorgeous. And I think, Diane, did Luke campaign for her? Did they have the same management or?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, I'm thinking of
but I don't
I'm thinking of
remember.
I'm thinking of the Wings Hauser story, which we should have covered it. That's season 5, but we'll do that.
Yeah.
later on.
Let's talk about Rebecca and casting Toni.
Okay.
Diane. Yeah.
Yes, here I am. I am trying to rapidly change my pages.
You're good. Yeah. We're not live. Yeah, so we're good.
So keep talking,
Good,
which I'm
We
really
have time.
glad about, because in my papers yesterday, the yellow papers, I saw something about Carrie Russell, and hold on, I need to find them again.
Well,
Because
Larry,
Go ahead.
I'll talk to Larry as you look for your notes, but casting this part is going to be huge, and you have to have the right person, because not only is the character really there in your words to serve the show, because she's only going to be there till 6 or 7 episodes or whatever it is, but you also are having one of the biggest characters in Beverly Hills 90210 leave the show. So there's 2 things that are happening there that are of significance.
Oh yeah, no, it's just we felt the pressure in that, but we wanted to really please Luke and send Luke out in the best possible way, and we wanted someone that he genuinely would fall in love with, because he's trying to kill her father. So it's really got to be a strong bond, an attraction between them, and we didn't know much about Rebecca. So I remember the first dailies we saw, and we went, "Oh my God, thank God she's fabulous." I mean, because she really had very little acting experience. She might have done a little bit of soap work and had done
Well, the Noxema commercials,
yeah, but that's not
serious
acting.
shit.
We knew her from the Noxema commercial, how absolutely stunning she was.
Right.
And we had looked some of her at some of her soap stuff, which she had done some, I don't know which soap show she was on, maybe Bold and the Beautiful, I don't remember now, but no, I mean, we just thought she was wonderful, and I'm sure we ran it by Luke. I'm sure Diane ran it by Luke, and we ran it by Luke to make sure he was going to be comfortable with it. And we got, he was right behind it, so that made everything easy.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Partially, I found about Rebecca Gayheart. I went to New York and met actresses for this role. And I was there, I think I was there for about a week. And I put a ton of actresses on tape, and Rebecca was one of them. And so we did have her read what I had, and it came back with me to Los Angeles. So, but other than that, Fox was a real big fan of Rebecca's, and they had her on tape as well, plus an Noxema commercial, and she was a sweetheart.
Hazard, Kentucky.
Is that where she's from? She
And so, were there other people being considered? We're talking about
yes.
this Carrie Russell's
Yes.
debacle. Yeah.
Carrie
So,
Russell was also considered, but I didn't have, when I saw the notes yesterday, which I am sorry, but I cannot find. We did do a deal on her for that
Wow.
role.
Hmm.
So
Well, I'm saying like we really wanted her, and
Yeah.
again, it finally got shot down by Mr. Spelling because he had another series for her. He was going to put her
Yes.
in the series Malibu Shores.
yeah,
well, she eventually did Felicity too, which is not. I don't think.
Well,
that's
that was later on. That was
Yeah.
later on.
that was it.
So, Larry, how would you, through Dianne, you would have found out about Carrie Russell, or?
No, we had seen her in something. We saw her acting. She was just adorable. Rebecca. She was like a clone of Rebecca. Frankly, they were very
Yes.
similar.
Yeah, she physically a little smaller, but yeah, they could be sisters. Definitely, they could be sisters. And what happens a lot of times with actors is that someone at a network will see her, or the agent will start shopping them around, him or her. And pretty soon they'll do one thing and that becomes the hot person in town. And with 90210, agents would always be calling me saying, can you meet this person? What do you think? And let us know what you think. I don't remember if Carrie came in or not. I would bet she probably did not, because everybody was in town was talking about Carrie Russell.
I was going to say she was hot. She had some heat on her at that point.
She was the hot girl at that time. Yes. And everybody wants her, and you do what you can to get her, and you either do or you don't.
Larry, I think you're right. I do think that there was a relationship with her and Luke, that they knew each other and were very close, because I remember that she told us that when she was on.
I thought so.
Okay, let's talk also about this storyline. Is Stanley Camel,
Toni's father.
Yeah.
Yes, Rebecca's
Do you
father.
remember bringing him in? And I mean, he's so great.
He's such a good, solid actor, Stanley Camel, that when I would see pictures of good, solid actors like that, I would just call the agent and said, as soon as I get a time, I'll call you, but we'll get the papers to you,
Mhm.
the sides to you, and if he'll come in and read for it, because he's so perfect.
I want to say, Mr. Spelling, sometimes you go in the room with him, especially for a part like Stuart Carson with David Gale, and he'd be an actor, you kind of think is really a good actor. And Mr. Spelling would go, yeah, his eyes are too far apart. He looks evil. Well, Stanley Camel's eyes were a little bit far apart. So he had a little bit of a menacing look to him. He was not a leading man. He was a character actor, even though he was a good looking guy. So he had that going for him. He just jumped off the screen. He was wonderful.
He was really good.
We also have had Cliff Weissman, who played Bruno. I don't know if you remember Cliff, but he's a lovely guy. He's a friend of the show.
Yes.
And that was a good part for us.
Yeah.
He was good too. I like Cliff a lot. Hollywood has such good working actors, and they don't get to work enough because they might be limited for whatever reason, but not as an actor. It could be, you want somebody to look the part right on the minute you see them, that kind of a thing.
Someone we should talk about for sure of this season is, who is Brandon going to be dating every year? And this season, it's going to be Emma Caulfield Ford, who we just learned, Lara, I don't know if you heard all that news, that she has MS, and it's very sad, and she's dealing with some stuff there. I don't know if you saw that on
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Do you remember Emma coming in, Dianne?
I remember Emma just in general, because I had brought her in over the seasons trying to figure out where she would fit. And then she came in on season 6 and she fit.
She's right.
So let's talk about that. This is an interesting topic in your world, where you like an actress and you're pushing for the actor or the actress to get on.
Mhm.
But each time it's just not clicking. It's not right, whatever the answer is. And you keep pushing. So talk to me about why you do that, and what that's like for you, that process.
It's when you have a belief in an actor, that they're good. And again, it could be, my theory about cookie cutter actors and my not wanting to have cookie cutter actors. And I didn't think that Emma was. And I just tried to keep bringing her in to see, you know, wherever she would fit. And I would always say to the actor afterwards, if it didn't work out, I would say, you know, please, you know, let me know if you don't want to come in anymore, because I'll respect that. That's your choice. But if something comes up again, I would love to consider you for that. But it has to be at that point up to them, because I would bring people in multiple times just because I had such a belief in them. And then I'd have to put them away for a little bit.
Sure.
And so people wouldn't remember that, oh no, we never wanted them, or they did this or they did that happen. And I never thought that an actor should be pigeonholed like that. So I'd put them away and then I'd bring them back again. And probably two of the most famous, who turned out to be pretty famous that I did that with, were Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. And Ben came in a couple of times and then he was busy doing other things. But he and Matt were writing partners at that time. And I kept bringing Matt in time after time after time. And finally, I can't remember what season it was, but they said no again. And it was probably the 5th or the 6th time. And I looked and I said, please. And no, because they had found somebody they liked better for the role. And I talked to Matt later about it. And I said, you know, I'm really, really sorry. You know I bring you in all the time and we haven't hired you, but how are you feeling about that? And he said, you know what? I'm an actor, just bring me in.
I don't remember this at all. I feel terrible. So we passed on Matt Damon multiple times.
Yeah, you did. Multiple times.
Do you remember what he was reading, what he was even being considered for?
Probably
He
Stuart
was considered for everything.
Everything. Probably Stuart Carson.
I just had such a belief in both of them, actually, that I wanted them so desperately to be on the show. And it just didn't happen. And then they got the Oscar.
Larry, you have no memory of this?
No. It's all news to me. It's all news to me.
You know what? It's one of those funny stories, because they just didn't work. But it wasn't like we didn't.
Well, Ben, I can tell you why he didn't get cast, because he was too tall.
Too tall. You know what?
Because again, it was a problem for us, as Diane knows. Most of our cast was pretty, in the shorter stature, and they didn't particularly like it when we cast, guys who were bigger than them, unless you had a PJ, like Paul Johansson had a specific going up against Ian. It's a little bit different.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was it for him. But Matt Damon, there was no excuse for. So I don't know. I guess he just didn't charm us, or Paul. I'll blame it on Paul.
You blame it on Paul.
Because we had a very fair room, I thought. As Diane knows, you'd sit there and after they would go out, after they'd all be done, we discuss it or whatever, and then we kind of vote on it. It'd be like a majority thing, basically. Everyone kind of had a vote. And but Paul was, so respected in that thing. It really was his purvey, and usually it was the act, and there'd be a director there and an actor, and then one of the writer of the episode and one of the producers maybe. But yeah, so I guess we all passed on it, but I'll blame Paul.
Someone else we should talk about is Cameron Bancroft.
Oh,
Cameron.
Friend of Jason's.
Is he in that group? Is that? Yeah.
I knew Cameron from before. And that's how I brought him in. I always loved him. I found out later he was a friend of Jason.
Yeah, it was Vancouver hockey connection.
That's I just have always liked him as an actor, and I just knew at some point he'd fit in someplace. He wasn't an actor who I brought in multiple times, but I think I brought him in once before, but don't quote me on that one. But I like Cameron an awful lot, and he was just such a good fit for Joe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Just made it work.
Yeah. And do you remember the audition process when we had him read play? It wasn't, we had all wanted him, but it was he and I think Shane Conrad that we put on.
Yes, I remember Shane Conrad. Yes.
And had them read with Tori.
I was going to say they read with Tori. That much I remember, because it was obviously Mr. Spelling really paid attention to this part.
Yes.
Because this is coming off the replacement of of Jamie Walters playing Ray Pruitt. We had to cut short his deal in season 6. We've discussed that many times. And Jamie's a friend of the show. He's a terrific guy. He's a fireman.
Oh, hold up. But I'm curious for Dianne, when something like that happens, when you find out that the actor Jamie Walters is going to be, that's over. Is that how do you react to something news like this? As someone that you cast who's doing very well, are you in on all that?
I hear about it. I'm not in on the conversations with Mr. Spelling. I get them after the fact. And, Larry or Chuck would have called me to say, well, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to start thinking about this. And I'd be like, okay, because that was my job. That was the job part of my job.
We would have given her a heads up. There's no doubt.
Yes, giving.
But I'm sure there's and we'll talk about this as we cover these seasons. There's speculative reasons as to why people are no longer on the show, right? So do you get caught up in any of that, Dianne, or are you just because you love this actor, right? You fought, you championed a Jamie Walters, you championed one of these guys or whatnot.
I wouldn't get caught up in the day-to-day about it, but yes, I would hear about it because having the physical proximity to Paul Wagner, I would go in and just chat with him on occasion. And I would know that, I think it was during the O.J. Simpson trial, and he had the trial on every day in his office during lunch. So we
would congregate there.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
You just go in and you watch and you go, oh, that's what's happening now. And but Paul was very, very accessible. And Paul and I had worked together when I was a casting director at Warner Brothers Television.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew he and Betty Reardon for a long, long time, and was very happy when he came over to 90210, I guess. Well, I was still down. It must have been still in the first season.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Midway through the first season. And so he and I knew that we could talk to each other as well as I could talk to everyone, Chuck and Larry and Richard and everyone, and Jessica and Steve. So I would hear things, and that was one of the reasons I wanted easy actors to come in. And there were times that a role would go out on breakdown and agents would call me, and if I trusted them and were immensely like someone like Ro Diamond, who I have known forever and ever, and I trusted her, Harry Gold I trust, and in addition to a bunch of other agents, I would tell them, I would say, this is what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on, but if you can tell me anything, because it's your client, let me know. But I would never, ever talk specifics out of turn at all. That was within the show, and that was a spelling company and Fox thing. But I would never, the gossip about it, I paid no attention to. I just wouldn't. It's, I would see things around the set by being there that I wouldn't understand. And I was there one time when Paul got a call that an actress wouldn't be able to come to work that day. And I heard the reason why. And I looked at him and I said, are you really serious about that? I said, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And he said, nope. So we got to change everything. And this is how it affects you.
Okay.
Does this involve a parrot? Does this involve a parrot? The story?
No.
Okay.
No.
I remember that.
I'm so curious about this story. Will you say who the actor is?
No.
Okay. But is it someone that we might suspect, or is it a guest? It's someone that we might suspect. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Do
you want to say what the reason was that the person could not come in?
No.
Okay, because then it would be too obvious.
Yes. But it was one of those things where Paul was just shaking his head, and I looked at him and I said, really? That was said to you? And he said, uh-huh.
That's insane.
And we'd be changing up what we're going to shoot that day pretty quickly.
Yes, exactly. We have to make these changes now.
Right.
We'd be getting a call and just, shifting it real quick.
Yeah.
So you were talking about Cameron Bancroft and him. I don't know who you mentioned. You said that it was between him and someone else, and then Tori.
Shane Conrad, Robert Conrad's son.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So
I think we saw him a number of times. I remember.
Yes,
him.
you did. Yeah, I tried because he would have good days and he would have off days.
Yeah,
So I always thought that, well, maybe Will would get him on a good day.
yeah.
And see, because he was a very likable kid, a likable actor, you know, it just never quite connected the
I don't
way.
think he ever made it onto 902. No, even
He
in all
didn't.
time. Yeah.
No.
So does Tori get involved in this at some
Yes.
point? Talk to me about that.
Well, what we arranged for, Aaron wanted to, I think it was Aaron and Fox both wanted to see Tori with
Yeah.
the choices on film. And so we set it up, and both actors, Cameron and Shane, came to the studio out on Calvert Street, and they read with Tori. They did a scene with Tori, and they went through makeup, everything. And Tori was sitting there, and I was talking to her through, while it was before the scenes would be filmed, and it just.
Does she give a point? Does she give an opinion like, well, I really thought it was great with Cameron?
Probably to her dad.
To her dad, I would imagine,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
But there was a situation that was going on with one of the two actors, and I heard about it. And
You're talking
I was-
about Cameron and Shane, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And it was while they were there. And so, and I'm not going to say which one. And I said, okay, well, let me see if I can talk to her and see if it's okay. And I did, and she was great about it. There was something that
He was going through
wasn't
something. He was going through something personal. You're saying?
No. She thought that something wasn't quite right. And so there was nobody else there. And I just took the liberty and I said, so I hear that this is bothering you. Do you want to talk about it? So she did. And then I said, well, why don't you look at it this way? And she really listened, and she was terrific, and she made the changes. She made the changes and made it work.
Is it something off screen or on screen?
On screen.
Oh, it's an on
Oh,
screen.
no. It was off screen, but could possibly affect the scene on screen.
Got it.
It sounds like a kiss, the breakdown of a kiss to me.
Somewhat.
A kiss, what we call it in our podcast, the kissing problem.
So
Sometimes there's a kissing problem, which you have to adjust the characters.
Or
Well-
possibly a hugging problem.
A hugging
a
problem.
hugging problem.
A body
Okay.
odor problem. These things happen.
Well, but I
it's not
think
worked out.
her and Cameron got very close through the season.
Mhm.
And I think that there may have even been when we had Cameron on, we love Cameron here, but he kind of indicated that there was like when he was leaving the show, he felt like he was breaking up with her because they were breaking up, like that there was maybe more to the relationship. Did you get that sense?
You know what? I did not even know about that. This is news to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of break. You remember that, Larry? He kind of.
Well, I mean, we always felt that, there was a good likelihood that whoever was playing opposite Tori, she was going to try to go out with her. She was going to go out with her. They were going to want to go out with her. Just
Right.
happened that way. They were young, attractive
Of
people.
course.
And just these things happened.
Right.
So it was a little bit like there was no social dating apps then. So this was like a dating app.
Come on 90210 and you might meet the person of your
Exactly.
It's like
in
Bumble.
in the best sense of it,
90s Hollywood Bumble.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, just, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
I mean,
but to that
you know.
point though, Diane, like I'm sure there's been couples that you mentioned Brooke Thies earlier,
Mhm.
and you introduced her to her husband. So in a way, not only are you casting for the show, but also potentially the future relationship
Matchmaker.
and potential
Wait.
children and everything else. So yeah.
I've thought about that a lot because through the years, Kirk Cameron, Chelsea Noble, they had met very briefly, I guess, on Candace's show, Full House.
Right.
But Chelsea came in and she had a recurring role as his girlfriend on Growing Pains.
That's right. That's where all that kind of started.
Exactly.
Oh, just curious. I mean, this is not a Growing Pains podcast at all, but were
No.
you there for the whole debacle with Julie McCullough?
Yes, I was.
What was that like for you?
It was disappointing because I love Julie.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do too.
I love her.
I've
She's
used her a
great.
number of
Just
times.
love her.
Was she on 90210? I think she was. On
Oh, yeah,
90210.
she was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
She
I
was.
loved her.
She's on season 1, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I have
Yeah.
her. I had her in pilots and stuff. I always
God,
really
she's
liked
so
her.
stunning, and I loved. As a kid, that magazine was, you know, that particular. But she was in Playboy. I don't know if you know, Larry. And this is
No,
what-
that's what I was wondering what you're talking about. But yeah,
yeah,
that makes
no,
sense.
there was. She was in Playboy, and she came on. She got the part of in Growing Pains,
Mm,
Yeah.
and then Kirk Cameron had an issue with the fact that
right,
she was
right,
a
she was an
playmate.
explicit, yeah.
It wasn't that
Well,
explicit.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
And
Was
you
that a
know
lot?
what?
Was that more challenging than anything that you dealt with on 90210? Because there's like religious beliefs and all this kind of stuff that's going on as well.
It was very different. It was just different. And I understood where Kirk was coming from because of his beliefs. I just don't know that it was handled in the proper way because I mean, it devastated her. And she was terrific. I just loved her.
She's a really wonderful actress.
She could
Yeah.
do comedy.
That's
She
the
could do
thing, you know what I mean?
She could
So
do comedy. Yes.
her career was probably blossoming, you know what I mean, outside of Playboy and all that other stuff. She was about to become a huge television star, and in some way, Kirk Cameron halted that in a way.
I guess in a way, but I think that, you know, she went on.
Sure.
I would never not hire her.
Sure.
I would not bring her in because I liked her as a human being and as an actress. And I don't think, you know, people should be eliminated for something because of things that they've done in their past.
Definitely
In
not.
that case, nobody would ever be working.
Right. Let's talk about these two. This is Randy Spelling gets an actual part, and Travis Wester is his brother. They're Steve's brothers. Do you remember Randy Spelling? I know he did some stuff on the show before, but this is really going to be an actual part. So what do you remember about Randy Spelling becoming an on-screen character?
That he got the part.
Exactly. I wrote the part for him specifically
He
for
went
him.
to work. Yeah.
I figured, okay, well, that's I'll score some points with the old man. And
Do you remember Travis?
I do. I like Travis. Yes, I do remember him. It's I hadn't thought about him in quite a while, and then I saw his name, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember him. He was a good kid. He was an actor. He's an actor, you know." It worked well for him.
Paige Moss is someone that comes in later on in the season as the I don't know. Larry doesn't like
Tara.
stalker.
Not a stalker. She's just a single white female.
Kind of a stalker. I think a lot of people would refer to as a stalker. Tara, do you remember Paige?
I do. I thought she was so interesting.
Interesting. Really a little bit off.
Oh, yes. And that's what her picture presented when I got her headshot, and I'm looking at her and I'm talking to her agent. I can't remember who the agent was at the time, but man, I remembered her a lot and I wanted to see her right away. And I got her in, and wow. Yeah,
I remember seeing her first time too. I think it was my character. I went, oh yeah. It's just something you just behind there. You don't know what's going on. Now we've met her today. She's been on the show. She's lovely. She's an art dealer. She has an art gallery.
Okay, but in fairness, she definitely has Tara vibes still.
Still a little bit Tara vibes. And that was hard, again.
And I love Paige. Yeah.
And she didn't have a lot of credits then when we cast her. Not at all. I mean, very few. And just there was something about her that we just kind of really was, dare I say, creepy.
No, well, yeah, I mean, a little bit weird, right? Or a little bit off. That's good.
And she just jumped off the screen for us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was really happy when you guys liked her because I thought, oh, she's got to get this role
because she's not right for anything else. Oh no, she did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but yeah, exactly. No, that was great. Great to see someone like that when you're.
What about getting someone like Steve Young on the show? What is that process? Are you involved in that process too?
Yes, I was with him. I wasn't with any of the music people, but I wasn't with Barry Bonds because he was Tony Shepard's good friend. But I'm trying to remember how it came up, but so I called his agent's office and I talked to a woman named Stephanie Wanaker, and he and their office was in Newport Beach. And so I said, this is what we want to do. Do you think he, let's try it out. Oh, great. Okay. And it worked out. And he was one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I want to say here, his agent was Lee Steinberg,
Yes, Lee
who
Steinberg.
was someone that Mr. Spelling knew. So we had a little bit of a lead into that.
Oh, good.
We felt we
Larry,
could make
was
that
somebody
work.
in the office a huge fan, or did they know he wanted to act? Like, where did this idea come from?
Because again, Joe Bradley, the character, was a quarterback. We were doing a Thanksgiving show. Tori's going to give him a present and a surprise. So we just thought it would be really cool if we could get a great football player. And I just think somehow, the Lee Steinberg thing came up, maybe talking to Mr. Spelling. And we said, well, listen, who does he have? And he said, well, Steve Young, maybe. So, and again, don't forget that year, or no, the year before, the NFL was coming to Fox. So, we had a little bit more.
Nice.
A little bit more entrance to some of the football players because the NFL was on Fox.
And he had won the Super Bowl the year before, right?
Boy, I couldn't tell you that. I don't think so. It was a year before, but maybe,
He was relevant. It was relevant. It was relevant.
Yeah, it was, but that would have been 90s. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was definitely, it was a cool thing. And because if you remember, Lee Steinberg is also on the episode.
Yes, he is.
Because the Donna Martin character, like, ambushes him at a studio driving out. She throws herself in front of his car to talk to him, and they had already known each other because they, like I said, she had met him before. So there was a little bit of a inroad there, which was good.
Excellent.
Carl T. Evans as Prince Carl.
No. Carl T. Evans played the boyfriend, Jonathan Caston.
I'm sorry, Jonathan Caston. That's right. Well, who was? Oh, Nick was Carl. Nick.
Yeah, Nick was Prince, wasn't he?
Yes, Prince Carl. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Carl T. Evans first, who was
he played Jonathan Caston, Susan Keats's Emma Caulfield's former boyfriend, who was he just got under Brandon's skin. It was a great foil for our Brandon Walsh character. He really, personally, I think Jason really particularly disliked him, which helped. I mean, for no reason other than he used it in his character. Yeah.
Sure. Any memories of him or not?
You know what? I liked Carl again. He's somebody I think I saw in Growing Pains. And because I met a lot of actors there that I could have brought over.
Sure.
But I liked Carl, and I had read him multiple times myself. And I can't remember if I brought him in a couple of times. 90210, but I might have.
Sure.
I think so. I think you did.
Yeah.
And Nick, how do you say his last name, Larry? Kiriasis? Yeah, who was Prince Carl.
Yes. He was a really attractive kid and very nice when he came in, and it just worked. And it turned out that the cast loved him. And it was great. And I think I remember hearing that they were all trying to get him to be a series regular.
I think we had some thoughts about that if we were going to go that way with the character. And even look, if I had stayed on the show for the 8th season, I might have brought him back because we were going to send the Claire Arnold character to Europe, and it would be easy to kind of get them together there and then come back, with him.
Well, that probably got
Steve up.
Shot down when
Kathleen
Kathleen left in season 7, right?
So that all never came. He never got a second chance there. But he did a beautiful job for us. We've had him on the show. He's a lovely guy, and people like that have just really made the series. All these really great working actors that you brought in.
Michael Dietz, Dr. Greg.
Dr. Greg.
He was in the Tara storyline.
Okay.
Well, this was a dream of his. I mean, he told us on the podcast it was a dream of his to be on 90210, and then he got the opportunity. And then a year later, I think he told us, right, Larry? That
he was a kid in Pittsburgh. He must have come from the what's the college, Carnegie. He must have come from Carnegie. Yeah, and he would watch the show and every week and wonder. And then he came to Hollywood, and all of a sudden he was on it with Jenny Garth, with Kelly Taylor. So.
It happens.
I'm curious if you saw some of that, a dream fan, super fan sort of that of 90210, and now they're in the role.
Yes, that would happen an awful lot. But what happened more was that I would have actors would come in to read for me, and they would be so nervous because they knew where they were because I was right there on the set. and by the sets, and they couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And so that was something
The
that
stars would be right there walking by,
Yeah.
getting coffee, whatever.
Yeah,
That would have been
exactly,
intimidating.
saying hi,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And when they would read for the producer's office would just down the hall from all the dressing rooms, so they'd see them.
I wanted to mention, we were talking about actors who played 2 parts. So we had another one in season 6. We brought back Gordon Curry.
Oh, yes.
That's
Gordon.
right. Mhm.
He had played Bobby in a wheelchair in the earlier
But you brought him
seasons
back as the drug dealer, right?
as Danny V, who became known as Danny 5, even though I wrote him as Danny V to memorialize a friend of mine who had overdosed.
Yeah.
He became known as Danny 5 because it was they took it as a
V.
Roman numeral.
Right. Do you remember Gordon?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Gordon.
Yeah,
oh gosh, he was terrific. And I didn't meet him through Jason. I met him before, but I was trying
Friend
to
of Jason's.
remember on what. And it was just, he was a joy, just a joy always. He was professional, he was friendly, great sense of humor, and he was a good actor. And
Really
happy
good
to
actor.
happy to be there and work, just to show up and come in and read. And he knew that he could do it, and it wasn't because he knew somebody, but he could.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference.
Let's return back to the beginning of this conversation when we were talking about Jason Wiles and Peter going up to that same part. Do you recall how it all plays out and who ultimately makes that decision?
Well, ultimately, after reading my notes from yesterday, that I found yesterday, it was the spelling company's choice.
Sure.
And that it was period.
I mean, that's how it would go down when you'd be in his room. He'd have the most weight. I mean,
Yes.
You're not going to go all of a sudden, no, you're not going to say no to him.
Right. And that was a conversation that I had that jogged my memory because I had written the conversation down.
Yeah.
And it just hit, are you asking or are you telling? And I said, I'm telling. And it was
okay. Well, that's got to be a ripple effect on so many people's lives at that point. You know what I mean? We're talking about something 30 years ago, whatever it is, 28. So it's long gone. But now I'm sure that there is in the camp, in the Jenny Garth's life, that she probably thought this was going to happen. They're probably making plans for the set. I'm just imagining what's going on in their lives. So this doesn't happen. Is there feedback from that camp?
Not to me. I didn't get any of it, but I was a little bit removed at that point because I just moved on to the next, what I had to do next.
Exactly.
As far as repercussions, I don't recall any, or if they were and my name was mentioned, I never heard about it.
And look, you don't even know. I mean, maybe Jenny was happy that he wasn't.
I would say, Pete, because Jessica Klein was good friends with Jenny at that point too, and she had, she wrote the first episode. She would have been the buffer there. She would have heard any of the blowback or whatever.
And Paul too, I'm sure, right?
She would, and Paul, who was the actor's advocate, yes, and he was their father confessor. Jessica and Paul would have smoothed it over with Jenny. To explain why this was done and how it was for the good of the show, and it had to be, and it might have, and again, it might have had some of the experience we had where we cast, Tiffany and Brian. So that might have come to play in it. It never reached me though. I don't remember any of this. I
was going to ask you. So for you,
no, but Jessica, that was she at that point. She was really involved in the show.
So you just knew it as Jason Wiles got cast, Larry.
I said, yeah, I want this guy. I mean, it was my choice too. I mean, we all, we looked at the stuff, and that was the guy we wanted. So I wanted him. I didn't know that Facinelli had a relationship with Jenny though. Just because, like Diane, I didn't really pay attention to the gossip. I have been always trained as a writer. Don't talk to the actors. Don't go to the set. She'll have a long career. You don't want to do that.
Diane had the total opposite. She had to talk to the actors.
I know. Well, that's her job. And for writers, though, because you go to the set and you talk to one actor, and then the other actors go, "Why isn't he talking to me?" They start wondering, and then you create a bad thing for the director on the set. So the director, the set's for the director.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I think a bigger question for you though, Diane, is like, is there someone like you're pulling for? Like, do you have a choice there? Like, are you saying, well, Jason Wiles would be, I know we casted it. You went with Jason, so you're in your mind. Was there someone that you thought between the two of them that Jason Wiles was the direction to go in, or did you whatever they do, they do?
They're just he and Peter are very different actors.
Really different.
And I thought that Jason would add a different element to it. I think Peter would have done just fine, but Jason just added something else to it, and which gave it more depth.
Yeah. I think he understood what it meant to be an artist too, because don't forget the character was an artist,
painter,
and stuff.
Right.
You know, and he you believed it you believed that he'd be that.
And
person.
the cocaine thing and all that stuff, he would be able to pull all of that stuff.
I don't think we knew the cocaine thing at that point, but when we cast it, we really weren't there yet on that. Yeah. But we just, we just come back from vacation, just wrote those first episodes, All
right. Well, this is season 6. Larry,
I didn't know any of that. So.
Larry, is there anyone else in season 6 that you think? Julie Parrish.
Oh, we bring in Julie Parrish in season 6? No, season 6. Yeah, season 6. Yeah, Julie Parrish becomes Joan Nat's wife, and again, she was a friend of mine, so I probably said, Diane, can we bring her up to read and stuff? Because one thing, as producers on the show or writers on the show, if we had friends or whatever, we would always ask to give them access, not to give them a part, but give them a chance to get into the room. And that was really, you were
clearly that's what Jenny was doing. Jenny was doing that. Jenny did that too.
We all did that with lots of people. And sometimes, but then it's up to the actor himself to really, win us over.
Yes. Yeah. And I would always, if somebody had an actor that they wanted me to meet, or, but Julie Parrish is just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And I have great respect for people who've been in the industry for a lot of years and were working actors.
Sure.
I love all these names, and it's just, it was a happy time for me in that arena. I'd be happy to bring anybody in.
Yeah,
well, this is great. This has been season 6. Diane, thank you. We have a lot more to do with you. So I hope this was a great experience.
It's given me chills in a certain way, just remembering these moments and stuff back with you. And and now, because we get to see the shows, because both Chuck and I hadn't seen this stuff in 25 years, 30 years for him. And so we were really proud of the work, and all our colleagues we had a chance to bring on, the directors and crew people, and it's just everyone feels a great sense of pride for what we created and stuff. And the legacy of the show obviously has become iconic. I mean,
it really is.
So that's what's fun. We're still talking about it, and we've done this worldwide now. We've had a Planet 90210. We had all these countries talk about how much it meant to them. We've had America's Zip Code, which I'm wearing here, which we had 50 states represented, everyone watching it and having a different experience, what it meant to them, and it's been really satisfying to discover this, because as we've said in the show, Chuck and I, when we left the show, it was not a good credit.
Yeah,
I would get not hired because it was a spelling show, and when they go, oh, it's too bad it wasn't a good show. Yeah. So that kind of it hurt my career. Well, I like talking about it now for that reason.
The day that Chuck and I talked, we talked about that, because I was affected in that same arena, in that same vein, and it was like, wow. You don't know that that's going to happen.
That's the perception of it, that it's a shallow, it's just a glitzy show because it's a spelling show. They don't understand what it really is because they don't take the time to watch it.
Exactly.
So you just kind of paint it with that brush, and Hollywood perception kind of rules, and that's what it was.
Yeah. Well, it's this small town that I live in Eastern Washington, and is pretty interesting. And I never really, come out and say, people say, well, you've got to have done something before, but I tend to not talk about it very much, just in general, because it sounds like, I'm bragging or something. And I want a low key situation. People close to me knew, but it was interesting because I had, in talking to a friend that I made at work, I fessed up and I said, well, this is what I used to do. And they were like, oh my God, I love that show. I watch that show all the time. And that's what? And so the jackets that we got in second season, the Letterman jackets, I brought into to show them. And they they wanted me to take their pictures with it on.
That's great.
That's
That is so great.
And it was wonderful. And it's like people in their early to mid 40s, and that's the right age, pretty
Yeah.
much. So anyway.
This is great. Listen, I want to thank you for coming on here, but thank you because as a super fan, I'm always inclined to say you casted our show. You brought in so many people that we wound up loving or hating or loving to hate or whatever it is, you know, and so they all had to come through you at some point. So there is just so much gratitude from me and everybody because it launched careers, but it helped to give us the thing that we're all still talking about and still love and admire. And you're a very big part of that puzzle. So it's many
So
things.
good to reunite with you again. That's part of the
Ah.
fun of what the podcast would be, sort of reuniting with people
Yeah.
again and seeing their faces and hearing, and just, there's a lot of love around.
Well, that was amazing, wasn't it? So much information and so informative and so interesting to hear about how season 6 was coming together, or the lack of it coming together. Anyway, this has been the Beverly Hills 90210 show. We will be back next week. Where we will be covering yet another season of casting. So thank you. And of course, you can always follow us at Beverly Hills 90210 show on Instagrams, on all social media, and join the Patreon. We have a lot of 90210 stuff. And of course, the Beverly Hills 90210 show shop.com for all your merchandise needs. All right, everybody, have a good week.